call the public hearing of March 20th, 2025 at 5 p.m. to order. If I could everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hogan?
No, that's what I was,
Mr. Lemay?
that's why.
Mr. Narco?
Here.
Mr. Kitchen?
Yeah.
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson?
Here.
Mr. Sheehan?
Here. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Hogan? Mr. Lemay? Mr. Narco?
Here. Yes.
Mr. Kitchen?
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Bahu? Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes. At this time, I'll turn it over to Superintendent Davis and Business Administrator Mr. Knight. Present the 26 budget.
All right, so we're going to present the FY26 budget as discussed with the Budget and Finance Subcommittee and with their feedback from about a month ago at our last meeting. The caveat to this budget presentation I will mention ahead of time is that we cannot vote the budget as it will be presented tonight, as our excess and deficiency is not certified by the Department of Revenue currently. So while I work through that process with the Department of Revenue, we will not be able to vote the $425,000 use of excess and deficiency in this budget and associated expenditures. We'll hope to have that worked out by the next meeting and make a budget amendment, at which time we'll notify the towns of the change to the budget and continue on with the process as presented here.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here to present Riddle Technical High School's FY26 budget. I'd like to begin the discussion by informing everyone that this preliminary budget was developed based on the Governor's House budget proposal and data and input from our administrators, teachers, parents, community partners, and centered around improving student achievement in order to develop confident learners and skilled workers. As you all know, the Massachusetts House Senate and Governor approved a change in state funding formula for public education in 2015 with the Student Opportunity Act. And this bill provides an investment of $1.5 billion into schools over 6 years. This year, we are currently into year 5 of the 6-year implementation. The bill is aimed at tackling inequity specifically for school districts like ours with higher percentages of low-income students, English language learners, and special education students in order to close the achievement gap. We currently have received a $646,973 increase to Chapter 70 aid. The budget that I will be recommending to the committee is $59,120,802 this evening, which includes more than $1,588,216 in additional spending, which is a 2.96% increase over this year's budget. Move to the next slide, please. So now I'll talk a little bit about our foundation budget rates per pupil. The Governor's House budget proposed is a direct result of a revised foundation budget formula, which reflects increased per pupil expenditures to add additional funding to schools with high numbers of English language learners, special education, and low-income students. As a result, the base for a vocational student was raised to $17,354. $17,354.29. I have a double 9 in my number, so that's my error, which is $493.96 increase. For special education students, we receive $32,114.34. This was a $780.72 increase. And for ELL students, we receive $3,575.49, which is an increase of $354.41. For low-income categories, that were added in FY21 and continue to exist. We have 54.11% of our students which fall into the low-income category, and that brings us to low-income category 10, for which we receive $7,815.03, which is an increase of $651.44 from last year. Are there any questions on the foundation budget rates per pupil? As an overview to our foundation budget, our enrollment from FY25 to FY26 went down 10 students, and this was not our school day students. This was as a result of school choice and our LPN students. Based on the new rates of the per pupil expenditures set by the state and our current enrollment, our foundation budget increased by $1,601,510, which is a 2.99% increase, and this is all net school spending required. As I said earlier, this is year 5 of a 6-year SOA implementation, and we should expect roughly the same budget increase over the next 2 years. Again, the $1,601,510, or 2.99% increase, is all net school spending required. Any questions on the foundation budget?
So the proposed revenue sources, so you'll see the FY26 proposal here, still in the presentation includes that excess and deficiency figure of $425,000, which we will be removing from the budget tonight in the motion and in the vote, because we do need to get that approved and certified by the Department of Revenue ahead of time. But we have assessments which include the minimum local contribution to our member communities, transportation and debt assessments of $18,865,202, or an increase of $230,913. This increase is pretty significant, but if you flip back to the previous page, you'll notice that the minimum local contributions alone, about the third line on that previous slide, would have increased $41,425. So the assessments didn't increase by that same proportionate amount because of that offset to the assessments we made through moving excess transportation reimbursement from FY24 into the revolving fund, which can then be used in FY26 to offset that assessment. And that was a $770,000 offset. So that, coupled with the slight increase to transportation costs, will get you to that $230,913 dollar figure.
Just layman's terms, we basically saved this, sending communities money by offsetting the transportation that we saved.
Yep, we absolutely did. And I presented that in all of my assessment data that I gave, the preliminary assessment data that I provided to all the towns. I gave them a breakdown of specifically the $770,000, what their proportionate share of that was, so that as long as everyone's reading my messaging appropriately, they'll know that is anticipated to be tacked on back to next year's budget, barring there any great increases to the transportation reimbursement this year. I don't anticipate that the transportation reimbursement will be as healthy as it was in previous years. Just based on the way the state's budget came out, they broke out the transportation reimbursement into a couple of different line items. And it almost, without knowing specifically what the intent was behind that, it looked like there may have been like a sort of a set dollar figure that they anticipate will be available for reimbursement, and then a secondary figure on top of that, which may or may not be available should revenue support it or not. Almost like a pre-9C cut is what I, without having any verification of that from anyone, what it sort of looks like in the budget anyway. So in order to be extra cautious with our budget and not put us into a revenue deficit going into a budget year, I held our transportation reimbursement number flat, anticipating that there might be some movement on that, and that might come out more as the budget moves through Ways and Means and the House and those other boards for approval. The Chapter 70 dollar figure, which Ms. Davis mentioned earlier, increased to $38,330,600, or an increase of $683,409. And like I said, transportation, again, I'm holding flat just with a little bit of uncertainty the way the budget was presented, to give us a total budget figure of $59,120,802 if we had been able to use excess and deficiency. Where we won't be able to use that budget number is actually going to be $58,695,802.
So next is our budget priorities. For the FY26 school year, our budget is focused on enhancing curriculum and instruction to align with industry standards, maintaining class size and course flexibility to ensure a strong learning environment, supporting student success and family engagement through counseling and support services, investing in educational technology and industry alignment to prepare students for workforce demands, and professional development for high-quality instruction to support teachers and counselors in their roles. And those are the budget priorities for FY26. Any questions about priorities? I know on this, yes.
Just to follow up on your point, which is a good point, I believe my constituents in Drake have received the biggest effect from that transportation money that you spoke of earlier.
Maybe not the biggest effect, because it's proportionally, the transportation gets assigned by the student population within the building. So Lowell still is our largest sending community, but Drake did receive a pretty substantial proportion of that offset to the assessment, particularly where their enrollment has increased kind of substantially on a year-over-year basis. They're seeing 38 more students, which just shy of probably 8 or 9% of their total population coming here. So
Just looking over the budget, preparing for tonight, that move you made was very, very wise, because their assessment went up, but was offset, or at least the way I'm looking at it, was offset by somewhere around 175, 180.
yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood, thereabouts. So
Town
they
manager will be very pleased with you.
hopefully.
I doubt it.
So the expenditure that we'll be making to support those budget priorities breaks down as follows. We have administrative expenses at $3,698,520, or a $287,000 increase. Debt services continues to decrease as we pay off some of our bonding from the school improvement project of 2014 to 2016. So we see a decrease in that line item of $16,315. Our fixed charges increased $11,122,121. Actually decreased $287,945 on a year-over-year basis. That's in part because we had a lot of unsettled contracts going into the last year. So the money that supported those contracts was put into some fixed charges accounts, which then got taken out and redistributed to the teaching and learning lines as those contracts were settled. Our largest cost driver is always instructional, and that's going to be a $30,842,471 cost for the year coming, an increase of $1,612,077. The operation of plants account came down just slightly from last year to $5,214,728, a decrease of about $25,520. Our other services is coming down as well. That's a $6,954,680, or $6,954,682, a decrease of $444,975. Programs with other districts is school choice. So you'll notice that as we talked about the enrollment declining, you'll also see that our cost of school choice is declining as well. We have many fewer students out on school choice now, as I think all of our local vocational schools where students could have choiced in the past have also reached their capacity, so are on wait lists or have limited enrollments as well. So that line continues to decrease, estimated down 10,000 again for next year. And then we had planned the addition of 25,000 to our OPEB fund, which talked about with budget and finance making sort of an ongoing effort to support OPEB, so long as the revenue supports that we do so. But again, with the limitation on excess and deficiency, we won't be able to do that line item until we have that excess and deficiency certified and make another proposed budget amendment.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So what falls under other services? Just for my own information, I'm not sure how that works.
Transportation's a big one in there. So what you're seeing in that 444,000 is that reduction in the transportation cost by $770,000 that we offset. So that's your biggest decrease in there, and that's your biggest line item on that.
Okay, thank you.
When we look toward notable expenditures in the coming year, there wasn't a whole lot about this budget that was really noteworthy, in my opinion. We're really just kind of continuing on what we've been doing. There aren't a lot of ads. There aren't a lot of big equipment changes or anything like that. So what you'll see is, most of what we see is we've got some supply and text costs coming out of $401,817. So that's going to be updating equipment and those types of things around so that we maintain that industry standard that we spoke about as a goal. And then the rest is just reductions across the board. Like I said, that other services account you saw, we're actually reducing the transportation cost by $685,200. So that's that $770 that we put into savings, less the contract increase on a year-over-year basis. That's how we get to that $685 number. And then fringe and retirement, again, we'd put some of the money that was slated for contract increases last year into those accounts during the budget process that then got reallocated. And again, the plant services department, with the slower growth in revenue, we anticipate that we'll be able to do less projects and updates around the building and do more of just a maintenance budget.
Next is our personnel expenditures. Our first is a stipend for a cluster chair due to our reorganization of departments. We are going to give the individual who is in charge of the construction and transportation cluster a stipend because we are adding 2 departments to the cluster. And that would be called now a construction and transportation cluster, adding automotive technology and auto collision to the responsibilities with carpentry, electrical, HVACR, masonry, painting and design, and plumbing. And as a result of those increased responsibilities, we have added a stipend to that CTE chairperson.
You're adding another administrator or just?
No, I'm adding a stipend I'm adding 2 departments to a cluster and giving that CTE chairperson a stipend.
You're getting a little more?
Yes, they're getting $7,100.
I understand that, but they're gonna have to do a little more.
They're having the responsibility of now the addition of automotive collision and automotive technology to their cluster, which are 2 departments that have high service demands. The next personnel, which would be due to the increase in participation in athletics, including unified sports, and flag football, we would like to propose adding a varsity coach for flag football, assistant varsity coach, and a JV coach for a total of $16,192 to support flag football. And then the last personnel would be a increase to the salary of the worksite aides, which are non-contractual positions, for a total of $10,000, which would be $5,000 for each worksite aide. And those are the personnel expenditures for the budget.
All right, and this is sort of an irrelevant slide at the moment, but the plan was to come in this evening with a recommendation to use $425,000 of excess and deficiency. Stated, I think this is my fourth or fifth time now. We can't do that because we are not certified with the Department of Revenue at the moment. That's a process that I'm working through, and we'll get righted, hopefully for the April meeting, at which time we would be able to amend our budget and increase it by the amount of excess and deficiency use. So those expenditures which would have been supported by that would be our Medicaid filing for $20,000, a capital building project to make a career center on the second floor of the building here, as well as our vehicle purchases for the year and that OPEB contribution. So those items are currently not going to be voted into this budget, but with the hope of, once we get through the certification process, we'll be able to make a budget amendment, notify our towns, and then include those to our final operating budget for FY26.
Bottom line is, when they certify it, DOR certifies it, this is what we're spending it on.
Yep, yeah, that would be the intent, would be, this would have been an included item. The certification process took a little bit longer this year than normal, and I had been on leave for a couple of weeks in the middle of all that, so I lost a little bit of time, probably why I'm a little bit behind on that process at the
Don't blame
moment.
the DOR.
Mike, what kind of vehicle purchases are we looking to make?
So we were looking to make two, they're called transit vans, so like a little bit, I guess, a little bit more attractive than a minivan, but sort of the same lines. You get a 14-passenger van that will allow students to go to work sites, as well as we've found that through the pandemic, because we couldn't get athletic transportation, we've had a lot of coaches pick up the job and say, I'll drive for a little extra, a couple extra bucks, which is much cheaper than it was when we were paying for contracted service to do so. So most of our athletic teams that are capable of traveling on a smaller bus or van will take couple of vans, go to and from their meets, and do things that way. So it's been a net cost savings for the district on the transportation contract. But the way that things break down at the Department of Ed and what's in net school spending eligible versus ineligible purchase, we can't take the operational savings from those athletics trips and use them for the purchase of the van, so we have to use the excess and deficiency fund to purchase the vans that then helps offset that cost.
And basically, these vans are paying for themselves by us not paying enough.
Yeah, oh, certainly. I mean, every time a big bus leaves here, it's,
Cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'd say it's $400 to $500 at any given time, probably at a minimum. Obviously, some more expensive than others, depending on the length of the trip and the duration of the game or games, if they're traveling with multiple teams, those types of things. So they've actually worked out very well, and we've had a great buy-in from our coaching staff, which has been really helpful in that process. It's not always easy to tell someone to grab a bus and take the kids as well as coach the kids. So it's been nice that we've had a great collaborative relationship with that coaching staff.
And we have our worksite aides that use the buses down in the
I mean, I saw it down at Providence, it was pretty cool to see the
Yeah.
bus down in Providence, it was pretty good.
Yep.
So we're gonna letter up the two new vehicles as well?
Oh yeah. Yep. They all get lettered up or graphicked and make sure they're Greater Lowell
Yeah, it was pretty-
representative.
It was pretty cool to see amongst everything, we pulled in, saw the greater wall, it was pretty good.
Sure, right, let's keep marketing our
That's pretty
school.
nice.
That's great. And what type of capital building and projects? are we looking
So that's the development of a career center. So we were taking a little bit of, I'd say it's kind of, there's sort of some dead space outside of the nursing office on the second floor here. Not really dead space, it's sort of just really wide corridor, more or less. But by reconfiguring that space and some of the offices adjacent to it, we're able to make what I would say is a better space for the nurse on the second floor, as well as a little bit of extra space to bring all of our co-op and career center staff into a single location and give them a place where they can host interviews with prospective employers or for co-op or after co-op, and students to meet, discuss job opportunities and those types of things, so get them really ready to go as they leave here, to be ready for the careers or college, depending on where they head.
So that's the build-out, $270,000?
Yep.
Okay, great, terrific, thanks.
So, in summary, for our FY26 budget, our operating budget of $55,600,722 exceeds required net school spending amount of $55,225,722 by $425,000, which we'll be using from excess and deficiency to cover non-net school spending eligible expenses. So starting with our operating budget of $55,600,722, which must be spent on teaching and learning. Our transportation costs of $2,241,000. Our debt service of $1,253,280, and OPEB of $25,000, for a total budget of $59,120,802. And our revenue sources are sufficient to sustain our proposed budget. Our minimal local contribution to our cities and towns of $16,870,122. Our transportation assessment of $741,799, and our debt assessment of $1,253,280, for a total assessment total of $18,865,202 amongst our one city and 3 towns.
Excuse me, is that debt service on the renovation, is that?
The debt service is for the building project, yes.
Okay.
Our chapter 78 of $38,330,600. Our transportation aid of $1,500,000, and our excess and deficiency, which we are going to leave out of this, correct?
Yep.
For this vote, for a total of, what is the total, Mike?
Sorry, hold on one second. It's $58,695,000.
$802. Again, this is without the $425,000 for excess and deficiency, for a total budget that we're looking for approval on tonight of $58,695,802. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for the superintendent? Thank you.
Second.
Is there anybody from the public here that would like to participate in our public meeting? Hearing none. We're gonna vote on this at the 6:30 meeting, so we don't have to take a vote on this right now.
Can I
Thank you.
ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
On tab 13 in the book, it says dental trust, $540,000. What is that?
Yep, so we self-insure our dental insurance. So through working with Delta Dental, all of the contributions come directly here. So instead of paying a premium to a dental or a carrier like a Delta Dental or something like that, while they administer our plan for us, we hold all the funding for that plan. So we take in that 540-ish thousand every year, and then that gets spent on the benefit to the active and retired employees.
Okay,
So we have a special fund set
There
up.
was other funds, and I wasn't sure, because it looked like it was in with scholarships.
No, it's mixed into that. Trusts and scholarships, what they call agency funds, kind of get lumped together. A lot of the places in the Department of Ed chart of accounts, so it does get mixed into the scholarships, but it's just a dental, just our dental plan, more or less.
And also a question to the superintendent, under the culinary arts, to be determined, are we hiring another instructor?
So we have an instructor that is retiring.
Okay.
So we are replacing an instructor who is retiring.
For the next school year?
Yes,
So that person's retiring this year?
yes.
Okay, good.
Or a motion to close the public hearing? Second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Hogan?
Yes.
Mr. Lemay?
Yes.
Mr. Narco?
Yes.
Mr. Getchia?
Yes.
Mr. Bahu?
Yes.
Mr. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Richardson?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes. All right, thank you, everybody. We're going to take a brief recess, and we will reconvene at 6:30 for our regular meeting. Thanks, everybody.